Hello and welcome to the test justification PowerPoint. This is where I'll be going over why I chose each test and why this is appropriate for the test. So for agility, I selected Illinois agility test. This is a moderately accurate way of testing agility. We completed this test with football, also improving on the ecological validity. This means that it can be applied to my client's performance as it demonstrates dribbling skills as he has to maintain a decent speed whilst diverting through the obstacles. This can be replicated, allowing a high amount of reliability with the consistency of the test. This test is very practical, it's a low amount of cost, and will only require 5 minutes to complete the whole test. The experience of the client will not contribute to any difficulties or issues here. We then move on to power and the standing vertical jump, which I chose for this. And this test is a useful way of measuring the power and can be applied to my client's performance within this sport. They'll be using a high amount of power to jump ahead of the ball when needed. However, this test isn't very practical and can be expensive due to the equipment needed. It is high in validity and reliability and can be both replicated and is true to what it is measuring. We can also measure change with this. The more powerful my client becomes, the higher they will be able to jump and the higher the reading will be. For flexibility, I chose sit and reach. This test is very useful in measuring flexibility. It can be repeated various times. Yet the box and other equipment is rather expensive to use, and it's not very practical either, as you have to always sit down constantly. Variables also need to be controlled for high validity, such as not being able to rush the test quickly and constantly nudging it forward and pushing the block. It should be completed in one clean swoop. It also has very low ecological validity, as we will never be in a situation pushing a block for flexibility. The next component of fitness is muscular endurance, and this is the press-up test. This test is very practical and only takes a minute to complete. It's very cheap and can be done virtually anywhere. There is no experience needed whilst taking part in this test. The only thing that is needed is the correct push-up technique. It's available to all, and yet the suitability may not be correct to all, such as injuries. This might be a shoulder injury, which would highly affect the performance of my client. This high validity and is truly measuring the endurance of the muscles. All variables can be controlled within this test also, and it's a direct measurement therefore. And then we move on to aerobic capacity component fitness, and I choose the yo-yo test. This test would be completed less to avoid complete fatigue, and that means that it would affect the other scores of the tests. This test is not the most practical test, however it can be used in large quantity groups. This could take up to 30 minutes and is rather simplistic. There's much normative data to compare the athletes' scores, allowing a vast range of categories to be set into. This also has high ecological validity, and it has a period of small break before each run. This can be applied to football, for example. There may be periods of fast play and a small break where it is replicated in yo-yo test. This test tracks the level of aerobic fitness and VO2 max of my client, and which is very useful and can be tracked for a period of time. The last is the speed component of fitness, and I chose the 20-meter sprint with football. I chose this test for my client as the football makes it able to be generalized to ecological environment. Within football, my client will need to make a short and powerful sprint to either defend or reach the ball in time. Therefore, the 20-meter sprint with a football is very relevant to my client. It is very cheap to perform also. All is needed is stopwatch, whistle, ball, and a few cones. This requires no experience to complete this and is very accurate in the measurement. The only way to improve the accuracy would be to use speed gates to measure this. However, this is very expensive and not practical. This will be able to reach a high amount of variability as it's able to be repeated very easily and has high validity as its direct measurement of the time and the speed which I'll be running at. The variables such as weather can't be controlled. No. That's the end of my test justification. Thank you for listening.